Hi again, it's Natalie Clark for Grieving Plus. Today I just wanted to make a quick video to give kind of a shout out and some validation to a couple kinds of grievers that I know are having a more difficult time right now during this time of social isolation and staying home to keep everyone safe during the COVID pandemic. Now, these are not official categories, just sort of ways that I've learned to explain the different ways that people approach their grief. Now, the first group I want to talk about are the distraction grievers. Now, these people have discovered that the best way to keep their grief from feeling overwhelming, or the best way to help themselves through the days where the grief feels the biggest, is to keep their mind occupied on other things. Maybe since they suffered their loss, they have taken on extra hobbies. Maybe they've become more social. They may have taken on more volunteer roles or a second job. Maybe started up a passion project, some sort of thing to help them feel more engaged and to keep their mind occupied on other things. Like I said, they found that their brain veers back towards that pull of that grief if they don't keep it focused on other things. I have discovered that people like this typically have lost someone who was very close to them, someone who was a part of their normal routine. Typically a immediate family member, a sibling, a parent, a child, a lover, a partner, a best friend, even a grandparent or an aunt and uncle, maybe someone who lived with them or with whom they shared one of those wonderful relationships where you'd call to check in regularly. Someone who pops into their head periodically during their normal routine as they come across those things that remind them of their person or places that they would typically have seen or heard from them. That cup of coffee in the morning without whoever used to share it with you, or maybe the bedroom that they occupied that you walk past every morning as you're getting ready. Because the memories come back and all of that is there so frequently, a lot of times people look to distraction grieving. They want other things to occupy their mind. It said, okay, I feel this, it's very strong. The pull is very much there to keep me sad or upset or angry. I'm going to focus that into something else. I'm going to keep busy. And now, of course, we find ourselves at home. We find ourselves not able to engage socially in ways that we would have. A lot of volunteer roles have been put on pause to keep everybody safe. Maybe you can't even do your second job that you picked up. A lot of the ways we use to interact, to be social, to keep ourselves engaged are no longer an option right now, or certainly not in the traditional sense. This can mean that you're left with those feelings of grief, a lot more of them, and maybe they feel a lot bigger. There isn't necessarily all of those ways that you found to redirect your brain. And it might feel like this year, for some reason, my grief is so much bigger than it's been over the past couple of years, even the past couple of months. What's going on? Why am I suddenly so much worse at this than I was before? And it's not true. You're just left without that safety net, that survival skill that you picked up in order to help yourself through this difficult time. First of all, try to give yourself grace if this applies to you. Try to give them grace if you know that it's someone in your life that you're resonating with this type of griever. Right now, you may have to pick up new ways to distract yourself. You may have to think more about solo adventures and solo distractions, things like crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles that maybe we would not think were so engaging in other times. You may find yourself able to lose yourself to that puzzle, to that way to make your brain engage and solve what's in front of it. You may consider using technologies like Zoom or video chats or FaceTimes to engage more socially, to find ways to interact with the people that you used to engage with in face-to-face. Sometimes even just a regularly scheduled call to someone or a group of friends, if you're able, can be a really great way to get that out and to feel like you have some semblance of routine. A lot of it, though, unfortunately, it's not replaceable. I can't offer you a solution for all of the things that you've lost and all of the things that have been put on pause while we try to get this illness under control. And so you're going to have to think about how you're going to handle it. You're going to have to come up with plan Bs and plan Cs to cope. What you're going to do on the days where it just feels overwhelming, and how you're maybe just going to let yourself feel it a little bit more. But try to remember, this has got nothing to do with you. This is not a personal failing. If you've been feeling more anxious, more irritable, more sad, more lost, there is a very good reason, and that the state of the world is such that everyone's stress is naturally elevated, and you have had quite a few of your natural coping mechanisms removed from you. There's going to be an adjustment period. So let's just think about that and extend some grace to ourselves and everybody else if you're a distraction griever. The second group I want to talk to are the isolation grievers. Now, I'm not saying this applies to me. I'm just saying if you looked up isolation griever in the dictionary, you might see this face. Just saying. Now, isolation grievers like myself prefer to have completely solitary moments to do our breakdowns. We can maybe get triggered or have something happen to pull us into one of those intense grief moments, but we really wait until we have some privacy and some alone time to really process that, or really succumb to the tears, or really just have that moment of, I'm feeling this, I'm overwhelmed by this, and I'm processing this. Now, for different reasons, isolation grievers are also having a very difficult time right now. Mostly because if you're not the only person who lives in your house, there isn't much alone time. There isn't much alone space. I've been joking to my husband for months now that I don't think I've been alone since this whole thing started. If there is not an animal in the room with me, there are multiples of my children, or animals and children, sometimes animals and children and my husband. There's no alone space. They follow you into the kitchen, they follow you into the bathroom, you go outside to do something terribly boring like weeding, and suddenly weeds have never been more interesting, and everyone is just right here, and you're just one big happy family. Now, plenty of the time that's beautiful, and we are finding ways to enjoy each other's company that we may not have in other instances. But if you rely on those times of aloneness when everyone's napping, or everyone's in bed, or they're at school and your partner's at work, or your roommate goes to their job, or whoever it is, whoever you're sharing space with, typically there are times during the day where you find yourself alone. And if you don't have those opportunities, it's building inside of you, and you may not have realized that that pressure release valve that you were having, just that little turn on every time you got to have that moment to, no one is watching me, no one has any expectations of me, I'm allowed to fall apart or get mad or throw something or sob or stare blankly or just get into the bed and pull the covers over my head, whatever it is that you do to just feel the wave hit you and process it. You're not getting that opportunity, and that pressure release valve has not been turned in quite a while. Chances are, like me, you're probably feeling a little bit bottled up. Now, sometimes that's easy to recognize as pent-up grief, and sometimes you just feel like, why am I so angry? Why am I so sad? Why am I so tired? Or why can't I sleep? All of these things can make you feel like there's just something wrong, but you can't put your finger on it, and you're left with just this irritable, sad yuck that you can't necessarily shake. And if it goes on for a couple of days, yeah, you're likely to start taking it out on yourself and probably the people around you. So if you fall into either categories, and honestly, you might fall into more than one category. If you fall into either of these categories, or if you're immediately thinking of someone in your world who falls into one of these categories, right now is a really good time to talk about it. Hey, it seems like you're having a really hard time, like maybe harder than usual. Is something about what's going on right now triggering your grief, reminding you of your loss, or are you just out of your routine and not able to talk about it? Do you want to talk about it? Is a really good question. How can I help? What do you want me to do? They're very nebulous, and a lot of people really don't like asking for favors or coming up with something that someone can do for them. But the very simple question of, do you want to talk about it, can be very freeing, because they may not feel like they do want to talk about it. And after some time, they may feel, you know what, actually it would be really nice, or permission permission to talk about the loss, to talk about why it's so difficult, to say, I love you guys, but I am used to having some time to myself, and I'm just feeling like I'm never allowed to just take all of the masks off and be myself. And it is actually amazingly freeing to just talk about it. So offer some space, give them permission, let them know you're ready and willing to listen if they would like to talk about it. And if it's you, if I'm talking to you and you said, hi, you just described me, or hi, you just described me twice, why don't you approach someone in your immediate world, someone that it's safe to talk to, even if it's over Skype, and say, I need to talk about this. Is that okay? Could you listen to me for a while? I don't need you to have the answers. I don't need you to solve this, but I really do need someone to listen for a minute. And if all you do is explain out loud how hard this is, I need more space, or I need a distraction, I need something. Sometimes even just being able to say out loud this frustrated feeling, to acknowledge your feelings, your anger, your sadness, your depression, your anxiety, your worry, your stress, and your pessimism, and why is all of this happening, and why can't everybody just behave and get along and be sweet to each other? Even just getting to say all of that out loud can be the pressure release that we need right now. So if that's you, if that's a loved one, take it in. Think about it. If you fit into one or both of those categories and it's never occurred to you, just sit with that for a minute. Think about how you worked it into your life. You created the conditions you needed to work on your grief in a way that spoke to your strengths. And that's amazing. That's surviving. You had a problem and you fixed it, and you worked with your strengths and you did it. Now, take that information about what it is that you need and see how you can re-examine your life in quarantine and have it fit those needs better. How can we carve out a little more of what you need to make this easier for yourself? And if nothing else, just recognizing that this is harder than it was before this all started. And this is going to maybe be an extra challenge for you, and give yourself permission to not be really, really good at it right away. So I hope some of that helped. Shoot me a comment or let me know if this is you and how you're feeling, or if you're just struggling, or if you just want to tell all of us what's going on. We're happy to listen. Type it up in a comment and I will be happy to get back to you. Otherwise, be kind to yourself, be kind to everyone else. This is not getting easier, is it? It's getting harder, but it's okay, because it's just for now. It's not forever. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.